Welcome back to Raised by Giants Live special broadcast. Good to see everyone. Welcome everyone in the chat and any moderators and or channel members out there. And to anyone that's listening to the replay, thanks for joining us. If you're listening on YouTube or X, follow the show on the audio only podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. We have some big developments on the Virginia Giuffre case. As you guys know, I've been hitting this thing hard. This is part 4. I've been staying up late every single night trying to look into this more and more. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I believe that it's important. Okay. I 100% believe that her husband, Robert Giuffre, is involved. And finally, we have someone that's casting doubt on the entire thing that actually has some power to have an investigation done. Because when someone says that they aren't suicidal, we should believe them, especially when it comes out that they were, that supposedly that they killed themselves, right? Just like Jeffrey Epstein supposedly did, her abuser for over 10 years. Someone gave her a giant middle finger, like, guess what? We're going to kill you too and make it look like you killed yourself. Just like we did with the person that you were speaking out against for the last 10 years and the man who abused you for over 10 years. So, on the last episode, part 3 that we did yesterday, we found out that the driver of the bus accident that she got into on March 24th was Ross Munns. Okay, and Ross Munns basically disputed everything that Virginia said about what happened in the bus accident that happened on March 24th. Ross said that it was a minor accident when he was trying to pass a vehicle and bumped into their tail light. It was an elderly woman, age around 71. When she exited the vehicle, the accident was so minor that the police weren't called. No one showed up to the scene, but somehow caused $2,000 worth of damage to the vehicles. Ross claimed that he didn't even know anyone else was in the vehicle that he hit. Never seen Virginia in the car. He reported the accident the next day, and that's when he was supposedly made aware that somebody else was in the vehicle, that being Virginia. None of this adds up. Definitely when you look at the police statements, it's all different. The police are saying one thing, the articles are saying another thing. Ross Munns here. Let's get to here's that mug. Here's that mug of Ross Munns. There he is. He's saying something completely different. And Virginia is saying something completely different. So the bus accident happened on March 24th. Virginia ends up in the hospital on the 30th, looking like this, saying that she has 3 to 4 days to live, that she has renal kidney failure, gets released from the hospital. Less than a week later, does a People magazine interview saying that her husband, Robert Giuffre, has been physically abusing her for years. 10 years to be exact. And explicitly states that she didn't think that she was going to survive another incident with him after the last one. And then on April 25th, she's found dead at her farmhouse. Now, from this news report that I found, states that Sky Roberts was with her whenever she died on April 25th. Sky Roberts, which is her brother, was at the house with her whenever she supposedly committed suicide, and he was the one that called the police to alert them that she was unresponsive. Now, I don't know how you commit suicide when somebody's in your, a family member is in your house. Like, that's just suspicious in and of itself. So Sky Roberts, which is her brother, that is also in the People magazine giving statements as to what had happened with her about the abuse. Which another thing that's really interesting is that her dad is also named Sky. Virginia Roberts' dad is also named Sky Roberts. And then her brother's name is also Sky. So we have two different Skies, two different people named Skies in this entire case. And their last name is Roberts. Virginia's husband, his first name is Roberts. So we have Skies and we have Roberts like all over the place. And it kind of makes this thing a little bit confusing, which I just chalk that up to coincidence, but it's at least interesting to say the least. Her dad's name is Sky Roberts. Her husband's first name is Robert. Her original name is Virginia Roberts. So many Roberts going on here, which again is probably a coincidence, but odd to say the least, right? So this People magazine article says that emergency services responded to a residence and found unresponsive 41-year-old Western Australia police media liaison officer Shelby Brady previously confirmed in the statement to People. Emergency first aid was rendered, but the woman was declared dead at the scene, according to authorities. Early indications show that the death is not suspicious. Major crime detectives are currently investigating. Virginia's brother, Sky Roberts, was staying with her when she died. Is that not suspicious at all? According to Amanda. Now, Amanda is Virginia's brother's wife. So Amanda Roberts, she's the one in the People magazine that we've been reading on all the other previous magazines, that was all the previous episodes, that was saying that Virginia had been beaten several times by her husband, and that Virginia told her that if there was another incident with Robert, that she wasn't going to make it out, that she wasn't going to make it out alive. So Virginia's brother, Sky Roberts, was supposedly staying with her when she died. I mean, this is just an interesting statement to begin with. Sky Roberts was staying with her when she died. Well, shouldn't that say when she committed suicide? If we're going with that narrative, shouldn't it say Virginia's brother, Sky Roberts, was staying with her when she committed suicide, according to Amanda? But instead it's when she died, which just could be semantics. It could just be semantics, but we finally have somebody of importance that is bringing this entire thing into question, which is Virginia's lawyer. This just came out yesterday. I was scouring the internet before I went to sleep last night for any new articles, and this had just came out yesterday, and I missed it because I was doing so many shows yesterday. I did 3 shows yesterday. I did one on Hero Paranormal Podcast about this with Ryan Burns, and then I was also on the Rundown Live with Kristan talking about this. So Jeffrey Epstein's victim, Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, casts doubt on her suicide. We've got big question marks all over it. Finally, this is what we've been waiting for. I mean, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for someone that actually has power to do something about this and actually bring the suicide into question. And her lawyer is finally standing up and saying something. Jeffrey Epstein's victim, Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, casts doubt on her suicide. We've got big question marks all over it. The article continues to go on. A lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein's victim, Virginia Giuffre, who killed herself at her home in Australia, has cast doubt on her suicide, insisting we've got big question marks over it. Carrie Lundin claimed that 41-year-old mother has shown no sign that she wanted to harm herself before she was found dead in her farm in Western Australia last Friday. So her lawyer is saying that she was showing no signs of harming herself or wanting to commit suicide, which is then all backed up by her making the tweet. I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP, which we've covered this several times, but it just bears repeating. So he's saying, Carrie here is saying that she showed no sign of wanting to harm herself before she was found dead in her farm in Western Australia last Friday. When I got the phone call, this is Carrie making a statement. When I got the phone call, I was like, are you joking? Because there was no sign that was something that she was considering. So he's saying that there was no sign that, to him at least, that there was any indication at all that she was even suicidal or even thinking about harming herself or could even kill herself. Okay, there's a suicide and there's misadventure, Lundin claimed. I don't see her in her room. I didn't see her in her room. I wasn't there. The family said what the family has said, but I'm not going to speculate whether it was suicide or accidental. Okay, Giuffre's death came just weeks after she took to social media to claim that she had just days to live after allegedly being injured in a March 24th collision with a school bus. See, they should rewrite this. This statement shouldn't be what they're focused on. It should be Giuffre's death came just weeks after she took that she had claimed to People magazine that her husband had been abusing her, and that if the next time that she gets in an altercation with him, she's claiming that she might not make it out alive. That should be the title. Okay, instead of Giuffre's death came with just weeks after she took to social media to claim that she had just days to live after allegedly injured in a March 24th collision with a school bus, because that makes her seem like a liar, because everyone has brought this whole thing into question. The whole school bus accident is very fraudulent. Makes absolutely no sense. One son, what's going on? Hey, Buckaroo, what's happening? Pammy Rogers with her statement that she would never kill herself. Why would this death not be investigated? That is my point. That's been my point from the very beginning. I don't know why. Especially with her husband, there being documented evidence of her husband abusing her on January 9th of 2025. There's a police report of him out there abusing her, basically beating her to an inch of her life, going to the hospital. Her husband is a narcissistic woman beater, and there's no suspicion on him. None. They don't even do an investigation. This is just a clean cut case. Boom, boom, boom. She committed suicide. That's it. No investigation. Okay, Giuffre, who was allegedly sex trafficked by Epstein. How do they keep saying allegedly? I don't understand how she was trafficked by Epstein. Like, they're still trying to cast doubt on this whole Epstein thing, which is just crazy to me. Okay, Giuffre, who was allegedly sex trafficked by Epstein to have sex with the UK's Prince Andrew when she was a teen, had posted a photo of herself lying in the hospital bed covered in bruises, which we know that the bruises came from her husband beating her. And the cover story was that it came from the bus accident. She was in a lot of pain, but she was still looking forward to things in the future. Her lawyer insisted she wanted to renovate this house and all sorts of things like that. So she wanted to renovate the house. She wanted to do all this stuff. She had all these plans for the future, and then she just ends up killing herself. Makes no sense. It comes after her family released a statement confirming that the news of her death, saying that she had lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, which is just completely ridiculous for her family to even make a statement like that. Yeah, the reason that she killed herself was because of, 23 years ago, she was trafficked by Jeffrey. She's had to have gotten over that. She's been speaking out since 2015. She's definitely gotten over the fact that this has happened to her. She's been speaking about it since 2015. For 10 years, she's been coming out about it. And then it just all of a sudden creeps up on her now. Makes no sense. That is a ridiculous statement by her family. That the main reason for her committing suicide was because that she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. If anything, it should be if she really did commit suicide, it should have been, well, she probably couldn't bear that her husband was beating her for the last 10 years. That would have been a way better statement than using the excuse that it had to do with Jeffrey Epstein back 23 years ago. Okay, so her family then goes on to say that she was a light that lifted so many survivors. The statement continued despite all the adversity she had faced in her life. She shone so bright. She will be missed beyond measure. Okay, so I really hope something comes of this. I really hope that that there's an investigation on this, because no one is no one as high profile as her lawyer has came out and said that something else is going on here, that there's no way that she could have killed herself, that her husband has been beating her for the last 10 years, and that the last time that he beat her really bad was in January 9th of 2025, where he beat her to an inch of her life and that she almost died. And then tells her brother's wife that she didn't think she was going to make it out of there alive. And if she has another episode with him, then she's probably not going to make it. Okay. Someone needs to look into that. Someone needs to read this freaking People's Magazine article and at least use this as circumstantial evidence to start an investigation on this freaking dude. And then it's also, suspect that her her brother was supposedly there with her whenever she died, which is this People Magazine article as well. Okay, so I don't understand how you would kill yourself when, I mean, I'm not an expert on suicide and how all that stuff happens, but I'm pretty sure that when people commit suicide, they don't do it with anybody around. But that's a very rare thing for people to kill themselves while someone's around. They normally want to be secluded away from people or be alone. And then later on, they come in to like find them. I don't think very many suicides have been done with people around or people currently in the home, which I'm sure there's some outliers and I'm sure that there's some exceptions to that statement somewhere, I'm sure. But it's just odd that she would supposedly kill herself while her brother's at the house with her. Now, it could be that he's in a completely separate part of the house because the farm was really big. It was a huge acreage. She had a really expensive farm. I think that they said it was $1.9 million farm home. They love bringing that up. It was $1.9 million farm home. Buckaroo, how's it going? I believe you're spot on. Great work. Thank you very much, Buckaroo. Really appreciate it. Looked into this thing hard. This is the 4th episode on it, and we're going to keep going on it because I think that this thing is something that 100% needs to be investigated. And thank God we got this Virginia Giuffre's lawyer coming out and saying that, you know, I've got some questions. I've got some questions here. You know, why she showed no signs of being suicidal or wanting to harm herself. She was talking about renovating her farmhouse. And then when he got the phone call that she had supposedly killed herself, he said, "Are you joking?" He said, "Are you joking?" Because there was no sign that it was something that she was considering. The lawyer told the Sun. Let's click on the Sun article. Haunting Inn, 7 unanswered questions after Virginia Giuffre's tragic death and the truth of Andrew's payout to riddle of final days. Ooh, this is a new article. I haven't read this one. She was a brave sexual abuse survivor who gave the voice of voices, but the tragic death of Virginia Giuffre has opened up a Pandora's box of unanswered questions. The most prominent victim of predator Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive by police on her remote farmhouse an hour north of Perth late on Friday night, with her family revealing that the 41-year-old had died by suicide. Okay, here's her and her husband. Here's Prince Andrew. In a statement, they said that Giuffre lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking. Virginia was a fierce warrior. That's all her family's statements. Okay, so she long alleged that she was groomed and trafficked. Jeffrey Epstein groomed and trafficked her to Prince Andrew when she was 17, claims which the Duke of York has strongly denied. Since reaching a multi-million-pound out-of-court settlement with Andrew in 2022, Virginia largely stayed out of the public eye, living with her family in Perth suburb. That was, however, until the dramatic post she made on Instagram last month showed her badly bruised and in the hospital, though confusion ensued over whether the injuries had been caused by a car crash, as she claimed. Okay, well, thank God. Thank God someone else has come to this conclusion. Her courage speaking out inspired countless victims of abuse to speak out against her tormentors. So that is another report that has been made, that she was also funding a lot of these other abuse survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer fees and their court fees as well. But many aspects of Virginia's life remain clouded in mystery, from the truth about her alleged interactions with Andrew to what actually caused her injuries and the circumstances around her death. Also, the whole thing of her entire, like her husband, is completely shrouded in mystery. We don't know anything about the dude. Absolutely nothing. No articles on him. Very difficult to find. And a lot of the stuff is a broken gateway. You can't even click on the links. And when you click on the links, it's a completely different article than what it actually was. It may be years. Okay, this is what I'm trying to avoid by doing these shows. It may be years until we finally have answers, but Virginia's death will only inspire those still looking for truth behind Epstein's sickening campaign of cruelty and exploitation. This is what I want to avoid, guys. I want to avoid this being years until we finally have answers. Jay, husband or handler? He was definitely a handler. 100%. The whole thing was set up by Jeffrey Epstein. Absolutely. Jeffrey sent Virginia to Thailand to massage school, and then that's where she met Robert Giuffre, and then they got married 10 days later. Okay, he set that whole thing up 100%. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to avoid by doing these shows, guys, because an investigation needs to be brought against Robert Giuffre immediately. Because this article is already saying it may be years until we finally have answers. And that's what I was mentioning last night, well, yesterday on part 3, is that if we don't get an investigation rolling right now, which I'm really hoping that we do, and I hope that her lawyer coming out and saying that, he's got questions about the apparent suicide, that this sparks some sort of investigation into her being murdered, or an investigation into Robert Giuffre, because there's so much circumstantial evidence surrounding him that he cannot be left out of an investigation. Okay, what caused Virginia's shocking death? In contrast to the statement released by her family, Virginia's lawyer, Carrie London, expressed doubts over the claims that she had killed herself. Thank God. He's expressing doubts over it, leaving open the possibility that her death was accidental, which, I don't think so. I don't think this was accidental. 100% her husband has something to do with it, but at least he's casting doubt over it, and maybe will serve some kind of investigation that they'll find out more information. So, regardless if he thinks that it was accidental or that she actually killed herself or whatever, at least hopefully this will spark some sort of investigation. So she was in a lot of pain and was looking forward to things in the future. She wanted to renovate this house and all sorts of things like that. She told the Sun. Okay, when we got the phone call, I was like, "Are you joking?" This is Giuffre's lawyer speaking, because there was no sign that this was something that she was considering. It is understood that Virginia overdosed on pills. Oh my God. Okay, so now they're saying that she overdosed on pills. But questions remain over whether the overdose was intentional. So now they're trying to say that she killed herself by taking a bunch of pills. This reminds me of the Prince debacle. Remember the Prince supposed suicide where he took a bunch of pills? But I think that the whole Prince thing was also a giant setup as well, and they switched out his ibuprofen and Tylenol that he was taking with fentanyl pills. Then he took like 3 or 4 ibuprofen, because the medication that he was taking was supposedly found in a bare Tylenol bottle. Like Prince. We're talking about Prince now. The medication that he was taking that supposedly led to his overdose and his quote unquote suicide of Prince were found in a bare Tylenol bottle. So if you're Prince and you're famous as he was, and he had just gotten all the rights back to all of his music, he got his entire catalog back. He ripped it all off of Spotify. It's the same with the Michael Jackson thing as well. Michael Jackson had the rights to all he had the whole entire Beatles catalog. He had so many people's music. He had pretty much all of the rights to all of Sony's music. He basically owned Sony. And then he died. Then they killed him. Okay, and just like Prince, I think that they went in and switched out the ibuprofen medication with fentanyl pills. And then he goes in, he's got a headache or he's got a little bit of pain, rips open the bare Tylenol bottle to pop 3 or 4 Tylenol, but then he mistakenly gets 3 or 4 fentanyl pills and then he dies. That's just my theory. Theory and speculation. But now they're saying that Virginia overdosed on pills, and this is new. We didn't know about this. This is a new thing. We got big question marks over it, Carrie added. There's suicide and then there's misadventure. Carrie says, I didn't see her in the room. I wasn't there. The family said that what the family said, and I'm not going to speculate whether it was suicide or accidental. Okay, so maybe this lawyer coming out wasn't as big of a deal as what I thought that it was. I thought that this was going to be, he's saying that she didn't intentionally kill herself, that she took a bunch of pills and killed herself, which I do not believe. What? It could take up to 2 years until the coroner's report is filed? It could take up to 2 years until the coroner's report is filed. What kind of garbage is that? Why should it take 2 years to get a coroner's report? That is wild. So it's going to take 2 years until we figure out exactly what she died from? So she could have been strangled, killed, hanged, beaten to death in her home, And also you got to think that she was already looking pretty beat up before she left the hospital to go back to her farmhouse. So she was already looking like this. So someone could have came in and beat her even more and they wouldn't even know the difference because she already looks beat up from the beating that she got from her husband. Okay, so someone could have came in and beat the shit out of her in her house and she could have looked just a little bit more worse than she looks now, than she did just a week before. But we can't know until 2 years later. It's gonna take 2 years until the coroner's report is filed, until we get an autopsy of her body. That's ridiculous. Let's keep reading. This thing is so crazy and ridiculous. In August of 2021, Virginia filed a civil suit against Andrew in New York. She alleged that she was forced to have several sexual encounters with the prince while underage in New York, London, and on Epstein's private Caribbean island. Accusations that Andrew denied. We know all about this. In the end, the pair reached out of court settlement in February 2022, with some sources putting the figure as high as 12 million, far higher than the 370,000 payout she had received following her lawsuit against Epstein himself. She also filed a lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell that was also settled out of court. However, the truth about how many millions she received could soon become known. Yeah, and I guarantee she didn't get all of that money either all at once. It was split up into years. So whenever she dies, her husband and her family is going to get the rest of the money that she's owed from Prince Andrew. Sources have claimed that a bitter legal battle could break out between her family in the US and her estranged husband, Robert. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into some strange stuff in the future. So her dad, Sky Roberts, which her brother is also named Sky Roberts, could have a legal battle with her husband that she was reportedly separated with since the incident where he beat the shit out of her in January 9th of 2025, and then they separated. Then he filed a restraining order against her that gave him custody of the kids. A freaking psychopath woman beater did the psychopath woman beater thing and beat her to the punch and filed a restraining order against her and claimed that she was beating him when he obviously beat the shit out of her. Okay. It is unknown if she rewrote her will in the days before her death. Since their split, Robert has been the one caring for her 3 children, 2 of them whom are minors, because 2 of her children are underage, and the court could order her estate placed in a trust, a source told the Mirror. Meanwhile, her family in the states where she held citizenship could launch a legal claim, sparking an international tug of war. It isn't going to be clean. So they're already anticipating that there's going to be a bunch of legal struggles between her dad and her family, which I believe live in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. I believe her dad at least lives in Florida. She's originally from Sacramento, California. The fact that minors are involved usually pushes courts towards setting up a trust, but with the international family and huge money at stake, challenges are almost inevitable. Should matters head to court, then the truth about the size of the payout might finally be revealed. Okay, so we might find out exactly how much money she got from the Prince Andrew settlement. Tax reports should take no longer. GG says tax reports should take no longer than 4 weeks. Anything more is sus. I think that 2 years is a really long time. I think 2 years is a really long time. I don't think that it should take 2 years, Pammy. It's one person, a toxicology report, and the coroner's report should not take 2 years. That sounds like obfuscation. Because if there is something different than what we've been told has happened, that she committed suicide, then we're not going to know for 2 years. And that's ample amount of time to cover up the fact that something else happened to her and it wasn't suicide. Because there wouldn't have been any investigation. All the evidence would be gone. The scene, the evidence of the crime would essentially be gone. So then you'd be running off the toxicology report. I think it's ridiculous that it would take 2 years. Yeah, Jay, but toxicology, really the entire forensic process only takes 45 minutes on the tell live version. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the picture showed her lying in a hospital bed with severe bruising to her head, claiming that the car had been hit by a school bus traveling at nearly 70 miles per hour. See, we get another difference of how fast the bus was traveling. Everybody's got a different version of how fast the bus was going. Some 48 miles per hour, some 68 miles per hour, some 70 miles per hour. She says that I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, she wrote. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. However, shock quickly turned into confusion after Australian police revealed that the collision was logged as a minor traffic accident and no injuries were reported. Because her husband beat the shit out of her and she went to the hospital for those injuries, but she blamed the bus accident. It also emerged that no charges were brought against either driver, with the incident only reported to the cops the following day by the bus driver. Just a week after her cryptic post, Virginia was discharged. Her representative later said on the Instagram post that the hospital was a mistake and she had intended it for a private Facebook page. Meanwhile, her father, Sky, reported that the doctors had told her she would have died if she had not received medical attention. Not that she had days to live. Okay, so she would have died because her husband beat the shit out of her and she went to the hospital and claimed that it was the bus accident. 100%. However, the truth about what she said she did, despite what the police later clarified, is unknown. Married for more than 2 decades, it was reported that Virginia and her husband, Robert, a martial arts instructor, quietly separated as far back as August of 2023. There is no verification that that's true. None. But we do have the verification that they were separated because as early as January 9th, because that is when he beat her to an inch of her life. There's a police report for that. And then he turned around and filed a family restraining order against her, which gave him custody of the children. So then that's how he got custody of the 16-year-old and the 15-year-old of her and Virginia's kids. Shortly before her death, Virginia came forward with the first time of allegations that she had suffered abuse at the hands of her husband. So finally, someone's writing about this. Thank God. Thank God someone has put this into an article and not just made it all about the bus accident. Because the bus accident is really important for understanding exactly what happened and that she was beaten by her husband and blamed the bus accident. That is really important, but they normally just focus on that she exaggerated the bus accident, but they don't understand why she exaggerated the bus accident. But finally, they put in here that she had made allegations that she had been abused by her husband. Okay, I was able to fight back against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, who abused and trafficked me, she said in a statement to People magazine, but I was unable to escape the domestic violence in my marriage until recently. After my husband's latest physical assault, I can no longer stay silent. So that's in reference to her being beat up in the hospital. That was the last time that her husband physically assaulted her. And she blamed the bus accident. But then she comes out to People and says that it was basically a physical assault. In response, Robert is reported to have filed a family violence restraining order against her. This was back in January 9th of 2025, claiming that it was her who had become violent. She was then accused of breaching this restraining order in February by texting Robert. This is classic manipulative, narcissistic woman beater behavior. So before she can get this police report filed, he then files a restraining order against her and tries. This is a part of his defense, because if he can have the kids, if he can have this restraining order in place, then nobody is going to be looking at him as the cause of her death. The allegations have left the public questioning how much troubles her personal life may have influenced Virginia's actions in her final days. Andrew has spent the last few years of something of a recluse, far away from the public life after having been stripped of his titles and roles stripped away by him and the late Queen Elizabeth in January of 2022. And King Charles has also been admitting to evict his brother from the 31-room Royal Lodge in Windsor, removing his annual cash handout and refusing to pay for his private security. But last weekend made a surprise appearance and joined the King and Queen for Easter Sunday service in Windsor Castle. Looking jovial and relaxed, it fulfilled suspicions that the Duke was looking for routes back into the public life. Okay, so he's looking for a way back into the royal family because he's been basically exiled right around the time that Virginia is going to be suicided or killed. That's not suspicious. Andrew goes deep down, harbor hopes that he can make a comeback, but they are delusional hopes, an insider told The Sun. Following Virginia's post from the hospital and the revelation from Aussie police that she had only been involved in a minor crash, sources close to Andrew pronounced on the confusion and the attempt to paint her as an unreliable witness. That's what the whole bus thing has turned into. It's turned into making her out to be a liar because there's so much confusion with the bus stuff, so then it paints her as a liar that she made it up. But the reason that she made it up is because she couldn't file a police report on her husband for beating her, so then she blamed it on the bus accident. Hudson, what's going on, brother? Hey, Ryder, curious, is Jay okay? Yeah, Jay's good. I just talked to him the other day. On the phone. He's all good. But the Duke has stayed silent following her death, missing regular Sunday morning horse ride around the state, which insiders of her suicide have put to bed any chance of a comeback. Okay. Any notion that the message or her bus crash story could somehow make her unreliable witness has now disappeared, a source said. The door is firmly closed on any return. So he was trying to paint, because whenever this bus accident happened, his wife and him were making posts about that she was exaggerating the claims of the bus accident. But we have revealed on the show and doing this series on Virginia Giuffre that she used the bus accident as an excuse. Okay, as a part of the settlement with Virginia, Andrew plunged to demonstrate his regret for associating with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting his victims. Oh, it's too little too late, Andrew. Too little too late, bud. But it was a pledge he failed to keep, which has led to calls for him to act now in the wake of Virginia's suicide. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what we need. We need Prince Andrew leading an investigation on Virginia Giuffre's suicide. Coming forward to show compassion and actually throw himself into charity work may be the only way for Prince to redeem himself. Speaking to The Sun, Indrid Stewart, editor-in-chief of Majesty magazine, said, now it's time for him to honor the promise he made several years ago to help support victims of sexual abuse. Oh, yeah, we definitely need that. That sounds really great. Let's put the sexual abuse person in charge of leading to helping victims of sexual abuse. That sounds great. Let's do that. Okay, despite Andrew claiming to have never met Virginia, the prince is haunted by how notorious photograph alleged to be taken in 2001 Ghislaine Maxwell townhouse by Epstein. Okay, let's get out of this. I guess that's it. I thought this was like questions about her death. Epstein, who took the snap, is dead as now is Virginia, which, just a coincidence. They both committed suicide. Wow. But the original lies in the hands of the FBI, so truth may still yet be revealed. I thought this was all going to be about questions surrounding her suicide. Does that not say? Haunting in 7 unanswered questions after Virginia Giuffre's tragic death, from truth of Andrew's payout to riddled of final days. I thought that where was the 7 unanswered questions? Very little was even about her suicide. Most of it was about Prince Andrew. But at least they put the abuse allegations in there that Virginia had on her husband. Well, that kind of sucks. I thought this article was going to be a lot better. But at least we got the lawyer questioning it, and that's all that it takes is a question to unravel an entire investigation on him. At least we got that, though now it seems that it's coming out that she just took a bunch of pills, which I don't believe. I don't believe that unless they did the switcheroo, just like he did, like they did with Prince. 100% believe that they switched out Prince's pills, gave him a bunch of fentanyl pills. So they could have switched out her pills as well. I don't know, but apparently we're not going to know for 2 years because that's how long the toxicology report and the coroner's report is going to take. 2 years. The coroner has so many bodies to examine, so many other toxicology reports, that it's going to take him 2 years to get the toxicology report of Virginia Giuffre, a highly public figure, so they can obfuscate the entire investigation. I don't know how coroner reports or work or toxicology reports, but I'm pretty confident that it doesn't take 2 freaking years. Pretty confident. I mean, I know people that have passed away and they get the coroner report within a week. And that's just a normal person that passes away. Not a high profile person like Virginia Giuffre that was speaking out against Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. Like, come on. Might take a year, another man said. Well, I mean, I hope it doesn't even take a year. Buckaroo is Mr. E even dead? I don't know. There's a lot of evidence that points that wasn't even him. If he is dead, he definitely did not commit suicide. He was murdered. If he's not dead, which there's evidence that points that wasn't even him that was wheeled out of there. Somebody different, body double or something. Pammy, that's what I've always suspected about Prince as well. Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense. And then Michael Jackson too, coming out and saying, calling his sister and telling her that they're trying to kill me, that they're going to kill me, and that they're probably going to overdose me. And that's what happened. His doctor overdosed him. It's wild. Wild, wild, wild. But that seems to be all I got for today. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming along with me on this ride of me looking into Virginia Giuffre's suicide. I put a lot of work into it, a lot of research, a lot of hours, staying up super late looking into this bad boy because there's too many discrepancies in this whole thing. And an investigation needs to be done right now. right? Because they're already saying that it's going to be years until we finally get answers. Like, no, we need answers right now, or this thing is going to become an entire freaking documentary series later on where literally nothing can be done about it. That's what it's going to end up becoming. It's going to be a Netflix documentary in 5 to 10 years. Mark my words. If this turns out to be what they're saying that it is, that it was a suicide, and now they're saying that she just swallowed a bunch of pills and that's how she killed herself, and her lawyer is saying that maybe that it was accidental. If there's not an investigation, nothing ever comes of it, and it is confirmed that she committed suicide, this is 100% going to be a Netflix documentary in 5 to 10 years. And it's going to be nothing but riddled full of speculation and theories. They're going to have the police officers on there and saying, oh, well, why didn't you look at this? Why didn't you look into Virginia Giuffre's husband whenever he was a known woman beater? When there's a police report filed, and then we finally get access to the police report, 5 or 10 years later, that proves that he beat her to an inch of her life. Then they'll be like, well, why didn't you listen to her whenever she said that in this People magazine that her husband had been abusing her for 10 years? Then it's just going to be a whole thing. 100% that's what it's going to be. So thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. I don't know when I'm going to do a next part, and unless something else, some other damning information comes out, another report, we find out more about what the lawyer says and everything that's going on, but I'll be sure to do another show on it. Buckaroo, thank you. Thank you for being here. All very sad. Yes, super sad. So, yeah, guys, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel and the algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And please share this series out. Please share this video out. More, awareness needs to be brought to this whole thing. And we need to get an investigation rolling right now if nothing comes out of it. And that's how we do it, is we make this a grassroots movement, and we essentially force them to do an investigation. We can't let this fly. All right, guys. Thank you. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.